welcome to our community celebration of Pride for Newark Museum of Art. I am your host, Dar Dwayne. We are
Dog keep
joined. We are joined today by designer Marco Hall, and as you know, with tech, there's always technical difficulties. So we have him back officially. And Marco Hall, for those who may not be familiar, he is a designer. And he's also a Newark staple. If you've ever been into any event here in Newark, you probably have come across or have crossed paths with Marco Hall. He's worked with the likes of New York Fashion Week as far as his contributions in fashion. He's also worked with Sex and the City, the production of Sex and the City and For Color Girl, along with working with many celebrity clients. And today what we wanted to do was we wanted to not only showcase his amazing talent, but we also wanted just to sort of have like a introspective talk with Marco to find out a little bit more about his process, find out a little bit more about who he is, and just learn how he feels he fits into the fabric of Newark, New Jersey in general. So on this day of celebration, we want to celebrate our artists. We want to celebrate all of the many diversified, talented individuals within the community. And so, to no further ado, I present Marco Hall. Thank you so much for joining us.
hey.
um, so first off, how are you feeling? Because I mean, in the midst of this pandemic, it's a lot. So how are you holding up?
You know what, surprisingly I'm good. I find comfort in my work. So, and I find comfort in my family and my friends. So I'm good. I'm really good. As long as I got my work, I think I'm good. My work is always my peace of mind. So as long as I can work, I got a peace of mind.
Yeah, we were just dialoguing about that. Like as an artist, most cases, as an artist, your work does take the forefront of your life. So art, interestingly enough, also brings comfort to others. So not only, like fashion, not only are you, finding form of release for you, but it also helps those who follow your trajectory of your career and love your designs. So what I'm going to do is simply just we're going to have a casual conversation, and I want to encourage all of you who are watching via Zoom that if you have any questions for Marco, that you can drop those questions into our chat. I will try to filter to those questions and bring those questions to our platform, as well as if you're watching via Facebook Live, I would encourage you to also drop those questions into the comment section, and those questions will be filtered to me, and we will try our best to make sure that we answer them before the end of the show. Now, we are in for a little bit of a treat because Marco also has a fashion runway show that we're going to get to see in a few minutes, but we're just going to delve deep just for a couple of seconds and get to know Marco, the designer, and Marco, the artist. So I want to first start off with I think it's important that we always highlight the background of our artists, right? And who they feel they are, right? And how do they feel best represented, or what words best represent them. So I'm going to start off with my first question with, who is Marco Hall? If you had to describe Marco Hall, who is Marco Hall?
Who is Marco Hall? First and foremost, an artist. Secondly, a family man and a friend. I just like to do me. Marco Hall is someone who just enjoys life, enjoy doing him, and trying to figure things out, as you go along. I'm not complicated. Most people think I'm complicated, but I'm very simplistic. I like simple things. Even though I'm loud in dress, I'm very simple behind the scenes. Just chilling with my family and my friends. I'm good. I don't need all the hustle and bustle no more. I just like a peace of mind. So that's who Marco Hall is at this point.
And I think that says a lot. A lot of people, when they make assumptions about artists, right? Because the art work tends to sort of lead before the person does. So, in this regard, it's kind of nice to know that their artists are also very complicated individuals. So with that, there's facets to artists. With that, I want to move into my second question, because as I said earlier, you were a Newark resident, right? So you grew up Newark. Newark is home. Growing up Newark, how do you feel, what was your thought process as a kid in the city of Newark? When you think about dreams and aspirations, how did you envision yourself in Newark and how you fit into the fabric of Newark?
Well, surprisingly, I grew up in Elizabeth, but I always was a part of Newark. Mm-hmm. I always came to Newark for everything I did. I honed my career here in Newark. Newark, for the fabric of me, has built me as a person. It allowed me to express myself. It's very Black, but very diverse at the same time. There's a lot of different type of Blacks here in Newark. Mm-hmm. So being here, I got to see all types of people. You had the working class, you had the hood, you had a little bit of everything going on, and you can mold yourself through all that. So Newark has just been a great hub to venture and see different types of people. I think, I'm a people watcher, and I got to see a different type of people and figure out where I fit in. And art was always been my scene, and that's where I fit in. So that's where I stay.
I mean, Newark has a very prominent art scene here, and I think
Yeah.
now more than any, we're seeing that spotlight being shined even brighter, especially with the recent New York Times article about the art scene right here in Newark.
Right.
And you're right in the mix of it. Your studio is right there in the mix of it, and then there's a lot of cool new businesses that are again a part of the edifice of what Newark is evolving to. So it's really cool to see. But moving forward, speaking of like artists, and as an artist, we often want to say we live in our troops, right? So this whole Pride celebration is about celebrating the LGBTQ plus community. And in regards to that, how do you feel you live in your truth? How do you feel you live your best self?
I always, I believe in being authentic. I truly believe in walking in your own path. I walk to beat my own drum. I don't question me. I don't question who I am. I love who I am. I love who I became, and I stand true to that. As far as, and walking in my, it's really walking in my pride is saying that I'm a man, no matter what I choose to love. I am a man. I'm responsible. I take care of me. I take care of my family. I take care of my friends, and I think that is just staying true to my calling and understanding where I belong and who I am. So, and I'm all about elevating me as a person all the time. So, and it's always a process of understanding where I'm going and trying to figure out where I'm going and what I want the world to see of me, not just my gender, not just my sexuality, but the person, the human being more so than anything. And I strive to do that, to just be authentically me, love it or like hate it. I'm just me. So
I love it. I love it. And speaking of authentically you, and answering your calling, why fashion? So out of all the career choices and artist paths, what about fashion led you in this direction? What about fashion was called to you?
it chose me because I thought I was going to be a dancer. I
Oh.
thought I was going to be a dancer. It chose me. I mean, I've always loved fashion. I used to love to watch my great grandmother make quilts, and I thought it was fascinating how she patchworked these quilts together. I used to take things apart and put it back together. But fashion was not what I really thought I was going to be. I really thought I was going to be a dancer, but like I said, it kept coming back to me. In grammar school, taking home economics,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
they
yeah.
don't have in school no more, which they need to put back in the schools anyway. But taking home
I agree.
economics, and it was just it was so natural, like to make the things they asked us to make. It was just so naturally done. I just did it so naturally and with such ease that it wasn't even a thought process. So, and I just kept, and then, like I said, just stayed with me throughout my whole life, and here I am today. Marco Hall, designer.
And a successful one at that. So it looks like when you answer your calling that if you follow the beat of that drum, that it ultimately will lead down the path of where you're supposed to be. And speaking of cultivating your style as far as a fashion designer, how did you cultivate your skills or your skill set in itself? Like being that dance was your first calling, and fashion was something that sort of kept circling back, and then took hold of you. How did you become the critically acclaimed designer that you are today?
Well, it was truly God. Everything I give it all to God because I'm self-taught. I've never been to school, and each day I learn more. And each day comes. If I can envision it in my head, I can make it. I can see it. I can cut it. So it's truly a gift that I don't take for granted. That's how I really cultivate my alcohol. Just continuously take, like I said, I used to take things apart and put it back together. It was just the functionality of things and figure out how it works and how it ticks. And you pull something apart and just put it back together and sewing by hand and all that stuff. And then I graduated to a machine, and that was all she wrote. And I never looked back.
That's
Yeah.
so dope. That's so dope. So speaking of following your beat of your own drum and walking down this lane into fashion, who was your first major client? So we all have that as an artist. We all have that first major experience that sort of springboards our career. Who was your first major?
It was the cover of Vibe, Vix, and Rihanna. I
Ah,
was doing stuff for Patricia Fields, and they came in and they pulled one of my pieces, and that cover kind of catapulted everything else. So now people became interested. That cover was very popular, You know,
Yeah.
I think every flyer for like 2 years that was a fashion show had that picture on their flyer. These
Yeah.
for like 2 years straight after that
Uh,
that magazine came out. So it just escalated, and then stylists started calling me. From there, stylists started calling me. Then photographers started calling me. So it just kept building upon like that. So yeah.
That's actually quite amazing. And for those of you who are not familiar with who Patricia Fields is, you should definitely look into who she is, because Sex and the City, as we spoke to earlier, is probably one of the more noted or well-known, not to say noted, but one of the more well-known projects that Patricia Fields headed up. So that to be working with her as a self-taught designer in this realm, and then for that to be to work with Rihanna and that be the springboard thing that sort of like catapults the career forward is actually amazing, and a testament to your talent, but also a testament to sticking true to your dreams. So all of those young artists who are watching us, who, you know, you may feel a little down, right, because your career may not be evolving in the space that you want. Take a page out of Marco's, just being persistent, and staying committed to the dream. So on this same topic of celebrity clients or major clients, you've worked with quite a few different people, right? And I know it's difficult because this is something that I know that most artists, most stylists, most people who work in the beauty industry would not have to like call out their clients. But if you had to like name your top 5 clients that you just loved working with, you loved their aesthetic, you loved maybe the easiness of working with them, who would be your top 5 clients who you would hope to work with again?
Well, sad to say, two of them have left us, which
Mhm.
is Itazaki Shange and
Mm,
Natalie Cole, which
mm,
was a joy to work with both those women. Itazaki Shange allowed me to do whatever I wanted. She
yeah.
didn't. She never. It was whatever I said. She did. She wore. Natalie Cole saw something of mine, and she came in and she's just started buying. For like I worked with Jill Scott too, and her stylist Steven trusts me. You know,
Mhm.
he has an idea, and he trusts me. And then working with my friend Darius, who's a stylist. Worked with God, I can't think of her name. She was on the Orange is the New Black. He
Okay.
allowed me to do what I wanted for her as well. So it's a so I think when the client trusts me,
Mhm.
those are my clients. I don't even have to get celebrity. When you trust me and trust the fact of my artistry as a designer and allow me to see, to give my vision to you, you
Mhm.
know, and that's what I like about, working with certain people, but definitely with Itazaki Shange and with Natalie Cole. Those two women were major in allowing me to be me, you know.
I mean, Natalie Cole, that's just, I'm sort of blown away. I grew up listening to her. My parents were fans. So again, just the doors of opportunity that your talents open for you, I'm blown away. I do want to talk about style influences for a little bit, because oftentimes as artists or designers in general, sometimes people think it's like faux pas to say that you have an influence, or to say that you know, study this designer, or that you admire this designer, and that's where the inspiration is pulled from. But I find it that in most cases, I mean, nothing's new under the sun. So there's always a style influence. So would you mind sharing with us a couple of your style influences, or maybe a timeline that your style influences are pulled from?
You know what is? I'm a people watcher.
Mhm.
I love to watch people and how they put things together. So I don't think I have a style influence or someone influenced by style. I think it's just the general people,
Mhm.
everyday people. It's not one specific person; it's everybody.
Mhm.
Because the world is so eclectic, and people are so eclectic. Because I watch sometimes I watch that show going, well, why did she put on those shoes with that, or why did he put on that with that? And I'm constantly doing that. And then sometimes if something will strike me and it hit me like, oh wow, let me see how can I interpret that
Yeah.
in a Marco Hall fashion to make it work for me. My dog is jumping all over me now. Now she want to be my friend. Anyway, so stop it. Stop it. No. So no, but that's really it. It's just people. People
Mhm.
influence me all the time. And music. I'm very influenced by music.
Uh,
Music plays a big part in what my clothes should look like.
yeah.
Music is very important when I come to styling stuff, putting stuff together, especially when I do a show. If I'm
Mm.
doing a show, music, the song dictates exactly what the clothes are going to look like. So.
I love that. And being from a performing arts background myself, like music, it's a certain pulse or energy to music, right?
Yeah,
So totally get that. And I'm guessing that's tapping back into your dancer background.
right,
As a dancer, you know, it's all about the music and the drive of the music. So it only makes sense. Since we're also talking about influences, and not only just influences, but being influential, right? We're both men of color. And when we look at Black designers, right? We know that uh, to become, what's the word I want to use here? To have a major platform as a designer of color, that's not always an easy task.
right.
What would you like to share in regards to you being a designer of color and your experiences?
Well, it's I don't know. For me, it's I'm back to that whole thing. When you stay true to yourself, people will see your worth, and 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 they'll gravitate to you, and they'll
Mhm.
want to help. You
Mhm.
know, and sometimes we just have to build our own platform
Yeah,
and make you see us. You
yeah,
know, sometimes you have to make people see you,
yeah.
and that's what I've always done. You know, quietly, but I made people see me. You know,
Mhm.
I'm not a big noisemaker when it comes to fashion. I just do what I do,
Yeah,
and you see it. And when you see it, you want to know who it is.
yeah.
You know, and then my name helps too, Marco Hall, because everyone thinks I'm something else than a black man. So so my name kind of helps too a little bit. You know, you hear Marco Hall first, and then you
Yeah.
see the faces like, oh yeah, this is me. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So but it's definitely for me, it's all about just being, like I said, I'm staying true to my aesthetic and
Mhm.
doing what I do, and building my own platform and allowing, thank God we have, stylists. Thank God we have photographers. Thank God we now have social media where we don't need them to get where we're going. We can do what we do,
Yeah.
and the world can see it. May not be on a larger scale, but it's on a good enough scale where the world can see exactly what we do and want us.
I would totally agree that we are definitely a resource for people. We by
Yeah.
any means necessary, and I applaud all of those designers, including yourself, who continue to forge the path forward, right? To representation in the fashion world. I do want to take one more or do one more question that I have here for you before we sort of delve into the video itself. I might take one of these guest questions as well before we delve into the video. So I'm gonna take one more of my personal questions, and then I'm gonna randomly pick one of these questions in our chat to sort of jump into, and then we'll segue into the fashion show. So my next question is style versus fashion, right? That is always the debate. Like when we think about style and fashion, are they the same? Are they different? Can you have one without the other?
Oh, definitely. Because you can have style and don't have fashion at all.
Yeah.
Style is personal. Style is very personal. Fashion is fleeting. That's a trend.
Mm,
That's a trend. I could put on a pair. Some people can just put on a pair of jeans and t-shirt and look amazing.
yeah.
And then some people put on all labels and still look a mess.
True.
So,
True, true.
so I think style is ornate. It's within. It's when you put something on, you have to feel it. You have to own it.
Yeah.
Fashion. I don't care. You can put on every label in the book.
Yeah.
You put Versace on from head to toe, and you still look like you wearing something from Rainbow. You get what I'm saying?
That says
So
volumes. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, because it's not about, fashion is fleeting for me. But style never goes away. If you have it, you have it. So it's definitely different.
I love that response. And I'm going to take one question from one of our viewers. So this comes from one of our attendees here in the Zoom chat. They want to know, how many years have you been working in fashion?
It is now, this year makes, oh wait, I think it's going to be 29 years this year.
Nice, nice.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
29
Nice.
years.
To have
Yeah,
that breadth of a career and to still be in demand. Like that's a big
yeah,
deal. I love that. I love that. So what I
yeah.
want to do now, because I don't want too much of our time to eat away, and for all of you who are watching via Zoom, I see the other questions. We will get to those questions. However, I want to play the fashion show. I want to show his beautiful collection that he is presenting to us here for the Newark Museum of Art. And then we can delve into the questions that I see here in my chat and have just a few other questions left. Left for Marco that are my own personal questions. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and prep us for the video. I hope you all are equally as excited as I am. And to no further ado, Marco Hall, here we go. Let's pray. Wow, wow. I love. I mean, I already knew I was going to love it. I already knew I was going to be blown away. I must say that just to see the clothing come alive, and to see it was just a yes all the way around. Like every single piece of fashion, the melanin. I'm over here like just in awe. So with that being said, I guess I got to continue my questions because now I'm sort of just like thrown because of how dynamic that was, especially using the backdrop of the museum. So for all of you who are watching us via live or Facebook Live or even via our Zoom chat conversation, we are currently closed, the Newark Museum of Art, and so we couldn't film the fashion show component in the museum as we would have wanted to. And Marco and his team were so resourceful that they opted to do it right in front of the museum. So like just seeing everything come together the way it did, like bravo. Would you mind telling us the production company that you work with or the producer behind the video, because that was amazing.
Well, actually, there's only one person, my friend Greg.
Nice.
Greg did it. Channel 13, channel _ 813 on Instagram. Yes. He did it for me. I worked with him with this photographer named Shemaim, and he does great stuff for him. And I was like, I needed somebody I knew fashion, understood what runway and all that stuff was. The inspiration behind it was For Colored Girls. Because at first it's going to be called For Colored Girls Who Considered Fashion When the Rainbow Wasn't Enough. That's what I was going to call it first. And then I decided A Technicolor Dream.
Yeah,
made it more simpler for people. But it was just about pride, color, the rainbow, being alive, being vibrant. It was about that. It was about just being alive and being vibrant and living out loud.
You literally, like, as I'm watching the show now, I've seen it twice. This is like my second. I saw it the first time when we had to prep and get ready for this interview, but watching it again live is just like I can watch it. I could technically watch it over and over and over because it gives you a certain energy as you're watching it. And the girls, speaking of the models, so model selection, how do you go about selecting your models? I know for our aspiring models, they would probably be very curious about how they may be able to get into an industry like the fashion industry or work with a designer like yourself.
Well, for me, I choose a girl who wants it. For me, you gotta want it. There's a lot of girls that want to be models because their friends are doing it. But for me, there's a spark. There's an energy. There's a, as they say, the je ne sais quoi.
Yeah.
And and when I'm shooting for my photography work, as far as fashion goes, I'm trying to use agency girls who are working, and especially Black girls. What?
You're back. You're good.
Especially Black girls. I love Black women and love to see Black women in fashion. We carry and wear clothes so differently.
Yeah.
So, but these girls right here are all from Newark.
And this is what I love about our community celebration. For those who may be just joining us, a lot of the components from today's programming have all been Newark based. And I really just want to drive that home because I think oftentimes that gets lost in the sauce when we talk about spaces like museum spaces, right? That we are not always inclusive of the community and that we're not always reflective of the community that we serve. But I think in this regard, like, especially when it comes to not only being reflective of the community that we serve, but also the LGBTQ community community that's here locally, being able to show both parts, right? And how those two things complement one another, how they're not two separate individual things. So shout out to Newark and shout out to the models you selected from Newark. They represented the city well. I saw a couple of familiar faces of the model lineup in there. I'm like, oh, I know her. And they were really, really, really phenomenal. I do want to lead into a question about art and fashion, since we're on this topic of museums and we're talking about fashion. When you think about art and fashion, do you believe that they go hand in hand, or do you think they're two separate components?
Oh, they definitely go hand in hand. It's creating. You're creating something. You're giving us something from ground up.
Yeah.
You're building. People build with paint. You layers of paint to build something. We build with layers of fabrics. It all depends on the textiles you're using. So it's a building. And it depends on how ornate and how deep you delve into the fashion, where it becomes wearable art as opposed to just wearable. Where it can come off your body and go hang onto your wall or go into a mannequin and see your room becomes a piece of decoration. So it's definitely the same. It's one of the same for me. Definitely one of the same.
And since we're on this topic of art and fashion, there is a question from the chat in reference to the art piece behind you. Belinda Manning says the picture behind you, Marco, is fire. And they wanted to know who the artist is. What is the name of the piece?
Because his name is Will West. He's from Washington, D.C. Actually, and it's so crazy. I just got the piece today. He just dropped it off to me today, and I thought, what great way to highlight this piece for him. I ain't thinking about asking about, but thank God they did. So now his name is Will West. You can catch him on Instagram. I can't remember his Instagram, but his name is Will West. I think you should put his real name in, it'll come up.
I think I might know this Will West.
Yeah.
Will West, actually, if it's the West I'm thinking about, graduate from Norfolk State University.
That's him.
Yeah, like we went to fashion school together. Literally, I studied fashion while in college. It is a small world. Yeah, I knew he was a phenomenal artist, but I did not know he was doing these grand scale paintings. Like
this one is called Sending the Clown. About love.
I need a piece. I'm like, I need an art piece. Like that is.
It's about love. It's about love. So yeah.
Okay. Well, shout out to Will, fellow NSU graduate. We got to shout out our HBCUs as well while we're here, right? So I want to go and ask a few more questions. We have a little bit more time, so I want to knock out a few more of my questions, and then I'm going to just go to the chat because I see the chat is buzzing. Tasha Turnbull here says the collection is beautiful. She wants about 3 of those dresses ASAP. So we have to definitely have you share out your social media and your website so that they can be able to so that those who are interested in purchasing can purchase those items from you. But let me just knock out these last 3 questions and remaining questions, and then we'll move forward with our questions from our viewers. So moving right along, we talked about art and fashion. I want to sort of now segue into what's currently happening, right? I sort of, when we did the intro, I sort of alluded to this, but the midst of the pandemic, we're right in the middle of the pandemic, right? And as an artist and working in the art space like myself, we're faced with challenges, right? So what have been maybe some of the pandemic challenges you've had, and maybe what have been some of the pandemic successes that you may have had? Oftentimes we forget about the positive, even though sometimes negative situations cause those positive situations to take root or to flourish.
Well, the negative was everything where my heightened season got canceled, which is like prom season and weddings got canceled. A lot of birthday parties I was doing got canceled. My whole business went to a standstill because there was no party, there was no communication, no outside communication and frolicking with anybody. Exactly. So that was one. But the positive side was I got to delve more into me. Yeah. Into my art, where I wanted to go, how to rebrand myself. So the positive was that I got to look at what I do differently and how does it affect my next step in my next phase of my life. But I stepped back and had a chance to breathe, to honestly breathe and not work and not be so on, always on, trying to figure out if I want to get this done on my deadline, if I got to do this, I got to do this. It was more about like sitting back, relaxing, understanding my craft, understanding where I want to go, where I want to see it. Mm-hmm. So that was the positive for me, that I got a chance to breathe and live through this in a sense that, when I said live through it in the sense that I got to ground myself, I got to figure out how to move again, in a situation, now in a new situation, how to move, how to be productive, how to stay productive. Really, that's really what it was. It was how to stay productive and not get lost in the pandemic and forget that I have something to offer and I have something to do. That I still have something to do. It didn't stop because the pandemic came. I still had something to do. So that was really it for me.
That part
what came from.
I was going to say that part is so important, not to get lost, right? Because we're human, right? And it's easy to get distracted. It's easy to allow outside circumstances that you have no control over to, sort of shift your lens. So this moment of reflection, that you taking that time to reflect, because again, mental wellness is so important. I can't stress to how important that is. Being an artist, working with artists, we all know that our mental wellness really, really does matter, especially during this time frame. And you do need those moments to sort of step back and readjust. I have roughly about, well, you kind of sort of touched on this a little bit, but I have like 2 more questions. So when we talk about like work-life balance, you kind of already alluded to the balance, but what other things are you doing outside of reflecting to sort of balance out that work-life scenario?
Staying in contact with people that I love, and just reaching out, and just like I said, just got a new dog, so that's my new work-life balance. Trying to figure this whole thing out, a puppy out, and trying to groom her and raise her. So that's been like the challenge of me forgetting about everything else and just really like just just understanding where I need to be. That's really it. I don't know. It's as simple as that, really.
And sometimes that's all that is needed, just keeping it simplistic. So I have one more before I jump into these panel questions from our viewers. So my last and final question for you, for the audience, I'm sure they want to know as well, what's next? Like what is your next task or next thing on your agenda?
Well, you know what, I really want to bring back Newark Fashion Week. This time this time, and keep it going. I want to bring that back. I also working on a fashion film.
Okay.
To Nina Simone's For Women.
Nice.
And just like I said, rebranding my business. My name now is about rebranding. Like since they're going to have to be virtual right quick, so trying to figure out this whole virtual world and live in it for a moment. But I don't want to live in so long that we forget human contact, So, but I want to live in it for a minute, but I don't want to forget about human contact and human connection. Because this right here is great, but it's kind of scary for me. It's because I like to see people in real time, in real life, and I would experience agree. That. But definitely that's what's going on. And like I said, just continue to build Marco Hall in the brand. That's really what my next phase is. That's
Love it. Well, with the few minutes we have left, I want to just jump into these panelist questions, because everyone is dropping their comments in and dropping their questions. And I want to make sure that, again, this is a program about the community, for the community. So I want to make sure that the community is equally represented in our discussion. And so I have a question from one of our anonymous attendees. They wanted to know, how have you been able to mentor a new generation of designers? In what capacity or what ways have you been able to mentor new designers?
Well, when I do speak to new designers and up-and-coming designers, my thing is that I allow people to come in my space. You can come sit, you can shadow me, you can come ask any question you like. It's free. There's nothing wrong with giving you my world, my pearls, my world wisdom. And if I can help you, I will. I have no problem giving you anything, because what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. That's how I see it. And plus that if you're a new designer, new anybody, stay true to your aesthetic. Because you see someone else getting it, that don't mean that's your path. That ain't your path, that's theirs. That's why they're getting it. Stay true to yours and people will find you. You don't have to find them, they will find you. So
I love that response. Absolutely. And I co-sign to the 10th power on that. So this comes from another Zoom watcher. They want to know what inspires you when you're designing.
What inspires me when I'm designing, like I said, music, people, friends. My friend Andre J was one of my biggest inspirations. At one point he was a muse of mine, and now I'm finding muses in everyone and everything that I see. But it's definitely the people, the environment, and you know, like I said, the music. It all depends. A song can hit me, and I can find a whole collection of the song. I can see a painting or a piece of fabric, and I can find a whole collection of that piece of fabric. So it all depends on what mood I'm in.
Yeah.
So at that moment.
Well, we look, artists are temperamental, so it does depend on the mood, right?
Right.
So this question comes from another Zoom viewer. This question is from Deborah. Deborah wants to know, do you have a favorite decade or trend that inspires you?
Yes, the 70s is my thing.
Yeah.
The 70s is my thing. I love the 70s. I was born in the 70s. I wish I lived it completely. Yeah. I love the disco era. I love disco. Everything about what I do. If you look at my work, if you saw the collection, it was very disco-esque. You know, it had a very disco feeling. I love disco. So, yeah.
Well, this is another viewer who is invested in understanding or not understanding, but knowing where they can get their hands on your garment. So with that, this comes from Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn is like, where can I get those dresses? I need them in my life. So between Tasha, Gwendolyn, and like 20 other people in this chat, I guess let me just allow you to speak to that really quickly before I get fussed at.
Okay. Well, you can always visit me at my boutique MH302 at 29 Halsey Street. That's downtown Newark, New Jersey. Or you can hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and it's all under Marco Hall. Or you can email me, go to my website, marcohall.net. Just Google me. You'll find anything else you want to find about me. You can get me if you need me, definitely. And you come to like I said, come to my boutique, and probably in the coming weeks, all this stuff will be up on my website. So, yeah.
And when the museum is open, you know, come check us out at the Newark Museum of Art, and then make your way to his studio, which is right around the corner. And
literally right around the corner.
Literally. And you know, get fitted for your next occasion. I do want to shout out June Burton. Apparently, you designed her wedding dress. So
yes, I did.
Everyone loved her wedding dress that you made, and they wanted to know, will there be a wedding collection? So,
well, my attorney, my good friend Eldoni Mason, she keeps saying you need to do a bridal collection. So I think there's one in the making in the coming year. You know, in the next coming year, 2021 is going to be big for me. There's a lot of things I'm working on, in the process of working on, to make happen and see. Because I said, like, this time right here, this pandemic time was a time for you to figure out everything you wanted to do. And if you ain't figured it out yet, something wrong with you. Or you ain't figured it out, there's a problem with you. Like, yeah.
It was a time to regroup and pivot. And I think that all of us are trying our best to do just that. I have one last question from our chat before we sort of bring everything down. I have a question from Melissa. And Melissa wants to know, what's the material you liked to work with? Sorry, let me rephrase that. What material would you like to work with that you have not yet worked with? Any specific materials?
I would like to delve more to like creating my own fabrics. Like Eisman Herpin is a designer, and she does like biotech kind of fabrics that she create on her own. I would love to find some type of way to create some unknown fabric. But I just have my Pacific fabrics that I love. I love Georgettes. I love jerseys. I love things that move. Anything that moves, that's my thing. So fabric that moves and that can tell a story, that's what I like. Yeah.
Now, this last question is kind of a personal question for me, ultimately, because I think the first time I met you was at Fashion Week, New York Fashion Week. We crossed paths the first time, and then to see you here in Newark, and then we just kept crossing paths after that. What do you think the future of events like New York Fashion Week may look like, considering that it doesn't look like the pandemic is going to be going away anytime soon? How do you propose designers might be able to show off their wares in a space in a similar fashion, or do they have to regroup all together? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's definitely a regroup. It's so funny. I was looking at a panel discussion with French Vogue, where they had Marc Jacobs, they had some Nigerian designer, a few other designers talking about the state of fashion. And right now it's virtual, you know, creating presentations, creating fashion films, But again, it's nothing like sitting down and watching a runway show and seeing how the clothes actually really move.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll find a way. But right now, we have to move with the times, and the
Yeah.
times right now is virtual.
Yeah.
Um, Creating your own presentation. But you know what? I think it's kind of in some ways good because we get to now see how creative you can be
Sure.
and how you really want to see your clothes presented in a fashion besides the runway.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
what is your vision of your clothes in the real world?
Yeah.
We see runway clothes all the time. You're going, well, how do they wear that in the real world? So now this gives you a chance to figure out, to let people see what it looks like in the real world, how it moves down the street,
Yeah.
how it sits for real in a chair, and all that
Yeah.
good stuff. So this could be, it's, you got to roll with the punches, basically.
It could definitely be a good thing for fashion. I will again co-sign with that as well. So my viewers, they love you, Marco. There's two more questions, and I'm just looking at the clock because I have just enough time for these last two before I have to wrap it up. Because again, this conversation is so good, I don't want to like leave them hanging. So Barbara wants to know any designs, especially to target the over 60 seniors, which is
Well, the good thing about Marco Hall is that I do custom. 90% of my clients are custom. So it's about learning you, learning your body, learning your shape, and figuring out what works for you. But I love a good kimono or smock for an older dog, a nice pair of slim pants, a good tunic. But it's about personal style.
Yeah.
What makes you feel good.
Yeah.
So I'm all about creating what makes a person feel good. Yeah.
And that's what fashion is all about, feeling great in what you're wearing. This last and final question comes from Michelle, and Michelle wants to know, can your styles be worn by men? So it's like a two-part question. So I guess I'll break it down in the sections how Michelle has it set up. So can your styles be worn by men? I guess, do you want to take that a yes or
Yeah,
no?
well, I do men's wear as well. I
Mhm.
just don't showcase men's wear. I showcase women's wear, like I said, because 90% of my customers are custom clothing. Everything in my boutique is custom. So I do whoever comes in the door. But definitely, I'm not big. I'm kind of a traditionalist. I'm not really big on unisex clothes.
Yeah, yeah,
If it's men's wear, it's men's wear. If it's women's wear, it's women's wear. I've
yeah.
kind of had that old school mentality, but I do unisex pieces as well. But hey, wear what you want to wear. You want to put on a man want to put on a dress, go ahead. You want to put on a man's suit, go ahead. Whatever makes you feel good, if you want that represents you, go ahead and do it. That's what I said.
And I think that speaks to the second part of their question, because the second part of Michelle's question was, if you do create men's fashion, do you create transgender styles? And you pretty much answered that on the nose, where wear what you want to wear, and you're custom. So you could design, I'm imagining, whatever someone may be envisioning, and bring that to life.
Right,
Um,
indeed.
um and then I guess they wanted to know too, like classification, if you did, I mean I feel like you already answered this, but how would you classify transgender clothes if you were constructing them? What would there be a category
Well,
that
I don't. What for me, there's no category. If you're transgender, I'm assuming in my heart you're transgender. Your style, your aesthetic is to, if you're a boy transitioning to a girl, your
Mhm.
aesthetic is to look like a woman, to feel like a woman, to
Mhm.
feel soft and dainty. And when I think of a woman, I think of someone who wears very beautiful, dainty clothes that are soft and make you feel feminine.
Yeah,
And someone, if you're trans man, you want to wear something that makes you feel a little more masculine, or at least a little more solid as
yeah,
a man.
yeah,
Men like to feel solid in their clothes. Women
yeah,
like stuff that move and that are flirty and moves and flow with their body and show off their shape. So I think there's no category. I think if those are whatever you choose to be,
mhm,
represent that through your garments.
right.
Because I think when you start putting on if you start saying unisex, that means it's open to all. That means you're leaving yourself open for people not. You're leaving yourself open. There we go.
Yeah,
That's what I'm going to say.
yeah, I agree. I see where you're coming from. You're right. It's almost like if this is your identity, like fashion is an extension of our identity.
Right.
So we're going to find the best way, or the best things that are going to suit that identity, to be able to showcase to the world. So
Exactly.
I appreciate you, Marco. We're running out of time, but thank you so much for doing this. Shout out to your models that were in this fashion show. They were amazing. Shout out to the production. Greg, you said
Yes, Greg.
So Greg, great job, phenomenal job. The museum may have to give you a call.
Please
And
do. He's amazing.
and all of you viewing at home, thank you so much. Now I do want to encourage you to not stop here. Like, we've been doing programming all day today. If you have not been watching us prior to our interview or our sit down with Marco, we've been running programs since 10 a.m. this morning, and we're not stopping. So our after party, which starts, I believe, a little later this evening, or wraps up, I should say, a little later this evening at 8 p.m. So I encourage you to take us to the grocery store with you, take us to the beach with you. It's going to be a lot of fun. Up next, after this, we have our happy hour. So it's narrowing that time. It's about to be 6 o'clock. So you know what time that means. It means it's time for a cocktail. And we partnered with Cool Vines Newark in the crafting of our cocktail. So you still have a little bit of time to go ahead and grab those ingredients. If you have not, the ingredients that you would need are listed on our website. And we're going to have our in-house educator, Anna, who's going to walk us through the steps in creating this cocktail live, as we also have a one-on-one chat with DJ Kenneth Kyrell, who is a renowned DJ. Again, another prominent face in the LGBTQ plus community. And then after we do our interview, we're going to turn up. We're going to have DJ Kenneth step in the booth. He's going to mix it up for us. And I encourage you to go ahead and get the Zoom link if you can, because that's where the official after party for our Zoom after party is going to take place. And download and just rock out with us with your cocktail. I'm going to get my cocktail and get my shaker ready. Are you going to join us a little later, Marco, with your cocktail via
I
virtual?
sure am.
I'm so
Yes,
looking
I sure
forward.
am about to have one now. No, what a joke.
Hey,
I'm about
hey.
to run over to Cool Vines and grab everything I need.
I love it. I love it. I
Go there
love it. I
across the
love
street.
it. Yes. Shout out to Cool Minds, and shout out to Marco again for joining us. Thank you again. And also shout out to Will West on that beautiful art piece that's behind you. Again, thank you all for joining us. And until next time, I'm Darryl Dwayne signing off. Thank you all.
Later.